Okay, so yeah, I really wanted to you know, have a look at my game yesterday in particular because first of all, the opening that I played is very similar to the structures that you're getting in your games. And even though the kind of mistakes that I was making is probably a level above the kind of mistakes you're experiencing in your game, I think it's really good to just address this early. And this is not the first time I've made this kind of error before. So yeah, sometimes with chess it takes making the same similar mistakes like multiple times before it finally hits home that, you are making these mistakes. So yeah, my opponent played the move knight f3 on move one. Um, for some context, this is round four, no, round five of the British Championships, Major Open. I was on three out of four at this point, having two wins, two draws, so a pretty decent event. And in some ways, I felt like I got quite lucky with my opponent because rather than playing the talented junior to my left or the talented junior to my right, I was playing someone born in 1970. Like, what a blessing in this day and age when it comes to competitive open tournaments. But having said that, I mean, he's having a great event. I mean, he drew the top seed. He was also on two wins, two draws. And with the white pieces, he was playing the Reti each time. But yeah, I mean, you'll see that he ended up playing a structure that was very different to his other two Reti games. So in every Reti game, he was actually deviating how he played the Reti. So I think this is a very clever way to make use of your openings as well. If you get to a level where you can actually play different ways, starting from the same first move, that's very, very jarring for opponents to prepare for. But I didn't know that at the time, and I just went for d5 and c6. So, sticking to this Caro-Kann
Yeah.
Slav structure. Um, and yeah, the annoying thing is about my opponent, he did not play for d4. He played for c4 and knight c3. Now, this exact setup is quite a trendy one. Not that he had played it before, so that was a surprise for me. But I have to be very careful here. So what would be your instinct in this position to play?
So get the light squared bishop out is the
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
And where would you develop it, actually?
So F5 or G4.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just trying to see if I go F5, advance, take. I'd probably go F5, I think.
Right. And actually, there's a rule um, that I used to keep in mind as a Reti player with the white pieces, that whenever the opponent can develop a bishop outside of the chain and get on this diagonal, you never want to push e3. You would much prefer to have the
Mm,
pawn on e2, put the pawn on d3, and that way at least the bishop is blunted.
yeah.
So this is a move you would ideally want to play, but the issue is that because white has played with c4, as soon as black develops his bishop to f5, white either has the immediate queen b3,
Yeah.
or they can take on d5 once and then play queen b3. And the issue is that you're attacking this pawn twice and you're attacking this pawn once, and there's no comfortable way to deal with both. Because
Yeah.
if
I
you try
had
and block,
so
yeah,
yeah, as I
uh-huh.
say, I've had the same thing. So I think in fact the first classical over the board game I played, I think the guy opened with C4.
Mm.
But yeah, I had like similar thing from kind of when they open with the C pawn, and it's like actually then the queen, like a few moves, you kind of follow on with the system you'd normally play, and then the queen comes out, and you suddenly realize that yeah, that D
Yeah.
pawn's attacked more than it's defended, and then the B pawn's undefended. And
Yes. And if you
yeah,
had
so
one
it's
more move, let's say they played one slow move here, well then you could play e6, securing d5, and now this is no
yeah,
big deal. You can defend this in many ways. Like probably blocking with the
yeah,
queen is best, and we don't care that our pawns get doubled
yeah.
because we get the open a file. So yeah, this is a
Mm.
this is a real problem. And I remembered at this moment, I was thinking, oh man, what was my remedy? Because I did come up with something, but I could not for the life of me remember. And obviously, I don't want to play Bishop F5 when, I'm playing a strong player, like he's gonna find this idea. But luckily, I remembered. And this is where experience pays off and analysis pays off. And I remembered that there's a very, very cute idea, which I actually took from a completely different opening. And I took this idea from a player called Yasser Seirawan. Have you heard of Yasser?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So, a very, very strong positional strategical player. Um, and this idea was taken from an idea from back in the 70s. But the idea is very clever, and whenever you're dealing with Queen B3, whether you have it in C4 or whether you got a D4, C4 position, or even an E4 position. I mean, actually, the line I'm going to recommend to you is actually taken from a Caro-Kann exchange. I think this is the position where they go C3. So again, Queen B3 ideas are
Mm.
relevant, and I think. Let me think. I think the position, yeah, might be this one here, right? And you're gonna see the same idea. So I'll show you the
Mm.
idea here first, which is the move A6, and it looks very, very random at first. Like, what are we doing with this pawn? Are we trying to cover this square? Like, what's the point? But the point is that when you eventually develop the bishop, um, if white tries to play this move Queen B3 ever. You can always be able to defend this pawn with rook a7.
Yeah.
And it looks really, really awkward to put the rook on this square. But the point is that the queen cannot come here because we will capture it.
Mm.
And one day we will probably push the pawn, and this rook will move somewhere along this second rank
Mm.
to get back in the game. Like maybe on the c file, right? Like let's say we get e6, bishop e7, or bishop d6. We castle. We move the queen to somewhere useful and we bring one rook to c8, one rook to c7,
Yeah.
and we play on the c file. So something like this, and I realized that actually, in this position that I got in the game, a6 does the job as well because, well, first of all, they're not going to play queen b3 while my bishop is still protecting
No.
b7. But let's say they develop and I develop, and now they go for this queen b3. I can always play rook a7.
Is hang on. Is the D pawn still not under defended? Oh,
My queen is still on d8.
oh,
So
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so the issue with meeting this
yeah,
position, let's say with a move like Queen D7, where my queen is still defending the D pawn and defending the B7, it's not a stable square. The
yeah,
knight can
yeah,
attack it.
yeah, yeah. Got you.
And the queen, if it comes here, it's no longer protecting here. If it comes here, it's no longer protecting here. And here, after the exchange, it's no longer protecting here. So yeah,
Mm.
A6. So I was very happy that I remembered this move. And because I had played this move and I'm preparing this defense, my opponent sees no more reason to keep this queen open, available to them, and they play the move b3, which is a nice move because it means that their bishop has scope to develop on this diagonal, and they're also allowing themselves to prepare recapturing of the pawn,
Mm.
which would be a beneficial structural change for white because the pawn is taking
Yeah.
towards the center. They get this open B file. Yeah, I don't want that. So at this moment, what would be the most natural move to play?
So still focusing on getting that bishop out. Um,
Absolutely.
and yes, same two options where kind of I don't know. G forces seemed like the easy option, but I'd
Mm,
rather it's like if I can get it on F5 where I avoid kind of the H3, that would kind of be better. So yeah, I think I'd still look to go F5.
yeah, and bishop f5 is the best move in the position. Now, this is where, you've heard of curiosity killed the cat, and I wanted
Yeah.
to call this lesson ambition killed the cat. This is where sometimes your own ideas can get the better of you. And I mean, it's even discussed in Rowson's book, Seven Deadly Chess Sins, in the first chapter, where, the first sin is thinking. Because, when you think too much about a position, you can end up just forgetting the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And what I had understood was because I had prepared against my opponent, like I had looked at his games, I looked at his style, I knew that this guy knows how to attack. In many positions, he's also playing the birds opening. He's playing with like F4 and really going ham with this attack. And I saw that when the black bishop had come to G4, he wasn't afraid to push these kingside pawns or on bishop f5, he knew that knight h4 is a useful idea.
Mm.
And I can't even bait white to weaken their pawns, which I'd normally be very happy to do, because I know that he's actually happy to push those pawns. Now, in hindsight, maybe I should just, you know, view the position and say, well, okay, he's pushing these kingside pawns, but maybe that's not such a big deal. My king side is fairly solid, and where is he going to put his king? I mean, he's already pushed b3 and c4. I mean, the queen side is going to be weak as well, and maybe I should just not worry about this. Um, but because I knew that my opponent was very quick to handle my bishop on f5 or very quick to handle my bishop on g4, I suddenly thought, well, why can't I get away with playing h6 first? Because my logic is, well, okay, once they, let's say, develop, I'm going to play bishop f5 now. And now this is a much better version, right?
Mm.
Because if they play knight h4, what can
Yeah.
I do?
Can drop the bishop back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that way I keep my bishop pair, I keep my structure intact. And if I can get this in, it is objectively a better position. However, when you try and play fancy moves like this, there are two things you need to keep in mind. Number one, is that it is violating the principles because there are these principles in chess that in the opening, you need to control the center, you need to develop your pieces, and you need to castle your king. And the second thing that it violates is that we have to remember that we are playing with the black pieces. And when you are playing with the black pieces, it means that you don't have quite as much freedom to get away with such ideas. Like
Mm.
with the black pieces, you kind of need to just prioritize these principles and get on with it. Because very often, if you don't get on with it, and your opponent has made, completely reasonable moves, like, he's developed his pieces, he's pushed reasonable pawn moves, he's not been wasting his time. It means that I can't afford to waste my time as well. And you actually see, stronger players than myself make this mistake from time to time. I think Hikaru is a prime example of this. I remember seeing a classical game of his where I think in the opening he made 8 pawn moves in a row, uh, which did not end well for him. But every single one of those pawn moves had some kind of logic to it. So to me, playing the move h6 here is just ambition, right? I'm just trying to get even more out of a position. I want to put the bishop on f5 and keep the bishop. Uh, I want to have it all. But with the black pieces, you can't normally get away with that. And at the end of the day, when you break a principle, you need to be extremely careful that you're not going to get punished for it. Now, what I had understood at this moment was the only way that my opponent would stop me from doing this plan uh, would be to potentially move the knight to h4 or the bishop to d3. And what I had understood was that, okay, if my opponent is playing the move knight to h4, I mean, the knight is so awkward uh, on this square. Um, at the very least, I mean, I could possibly even play g5, kick that knight back, and then develop my bishop to f5. Okay, maybe my king is a little bit weak. Um, but I didn't feel so concerned. Like knight h4, okay, actually, maybe principally I can even go e5. right? The knight is no longer controlling the center. I mean, it just looks wrong
What would you have
to play
done?
this.
So if bishop f5 was so before your h3, if
Yeah.
bishop f5 was the kind of best move in the position,
Mm.
what would you have done if you then got knight h4
I would
in
have thought for a
response to
long
that?
time whether I just
Yeah,
want to drop the bishop back to g6 and just say, okay,
yeah,
fine, you get my bishop pair, you get a slight advantage, but I've got a very solid
yeah,
position, and good luck breaking me down. I actually had a very similar position in my last round of my Spain tournament where I beat a 2250 from this position. So it's very deceptive that it looks very passive, it looks very dull, but you
mm,
still have a bit of bite and can
yeah,
turn the tables. So either this, or I would have played bishop g4 and encouraged white to push these pawns forward and say that, okay, this is
yeah.
actually
Okay,
a weakness.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, but yeah, the only other move I thought that could prevent my bishop at f5 was the move bishop d3.
mm,
But I thought the bishop is a bit awkward in front of a pawn, and I thought I can exploit this immediately with taking on c4. Because normally they'd want to take back with the pawn, but this would blunder the bishop.
yeah.
And if they take back with the bishop, what can I now do?
Get your bishop to f5.
Exactly. Yeah, and okay, maybe this structure is still slightly better for white. I actually like the fact that white has a two versus three on the queen side, but I thought, okay, I get my development in, I get my pieces out. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with this. So at this moment, my opponent plays a move which I completely missed. And when you play classical chess, you can't really miss your opponent's resources if you want to play good chess. And this is a bad sign. If on move six, I completely miss a reasonable move, which does a lot of good. And suddenly, I'm in big trouble, actually, because I cannot play my bishop to f5, and I can no longer really put my bishop on g4 because it's not even pinning the knight. Now the knight has freedom to move. And the problem is, I don't really have knowledge of playing a move like e6 and keeping my bishop inside the chain,
Mm,
which is also a viable strategy, but I don't feel confident playing like this. So already then, I've kind of shot myself in the foot by being a bit too ambitious, and this is a fantastic move from my opponent. I should give it an extra. So, given the scenario, I played a move bishop g4 because it's better to kind of deal with this tough position, but at least have some familiarity with getting the bishop
yeah,
out of the chain and try and navigate from here. And my opponent played the move knight e5, which I think is a really good move. And yeah, what would you do at this moment? I mean, it's a tough position already to decide how you're going to handle this.
so I'm trying to obviously the obvious thing is to move the bishop. I'm just checking there's no
Hmm,
other kind of attack something else in between or in the meantime. But yeah, so I think if you're moving, so it's given everything the last few moves I've been trying to do, I wouldn't want to move the bishop back inside the chain. So the
exactly.
obvious thing would be bishop h5.
Hmm.
Um, but then, yeah, I'm just trying to see what they'd have then. Um, I know they could then start advancing the pawns and kicking the bishop around, which would then mess up black's pawn structure.
Yes, and this is what I was very afraid of because I had some
Yeah,
pattern recognition that when the knight is on e5, if my bishop ever tries to retreat to g6 and
yeah,
my pawn is already on h6, they can take and my structure is ruined, let alone, this queen
yeah,
coming in as well. So, yeah, I felt that bishop h5 was off the cards given there was this threat of
yeah.
h3 g4.
Would they even need h3? Could they just go straight to oh yeah, because the knight's there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So I mean, you could go h5, but but then if they then if they play h3 or something, the bishop's then got to go back inside the
Right.
chain anyway. Um, yeah, I'm not seeing any alternative to just bringing the bishop kind of back inside that chain to, I don't know, like at least e5, if not further. So e6. Um,
So I think, Stu, currently you've
yeah.
got a case of being too ambitious as well. So given that I've already got a bit of a, tough position
Hmm.
as it is, I'm behind in development, I
I think
can't
I've
have
only
the
just
privilege
clocked. Yeah, I think I've
to
only just
save the
clocked that the
bishop. Yeah.
bishop is actually defended.
Okay,
Um,
yes. Yeah.
the fact well you could actually at least recapture with the knight.
Yes.
Um, but then equally, even if you do nothing about the bishop, if they then play something like h3 next,
That is true.
then
You're still in a bit of trouble.
yeah.
So what can we play then so that h3
Um,
isn't an issue?
could you play something like Queen d6 or knight
To force the
knight
issue.
d or knight d7 or I'm basically saying something that either kicks or attacks that knight in some way, so he has to do something
Right.
and kind of force the knight to take the bishop now rather than them getting some other move in between.
Yeah. And from a logic perspective, I love the idea. But for instance, let's say you deem that, attacking that knight to force that knight to hurry up and take the bishop, and then, this is a developing move, you could very easily convince yourself that this is a great move. But what you need to do, especially in classical, I mean, ideally in rapid as well, is you calculate.
Hmm.
And what can you tell me actually after knight d7, knight takes g4, knight takes g4? What could white do in that position?
Their I was going to say their queen could fork the two knights, but
Hmm,
one of them's defended.
exactly. So probably not.
Um,
And my hint for you is that your knight has been taken away from the center.
yeah.
So what kind of consequence might that have if the knight is moved away from the center?
Would that be um well there's it's no longer defending d5, but then
Hmm.
that's attack that's currently attacked twice and
Hmm.
defended. Oh no, the knight would still be there. Um
Aha, and the knight
yeah,
is
they
blocking
could
the queen. Yes.
yeah, so they could take on d5.
So they can take on d5. And yeah, to be honest, I stopped there. Probably I should look a little bit further just to make sure we don't have any counter resources, but I don't think we do. I think they take, 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 and we're just simply
Yeah.
down a pawn. So um, yeah, in this position, there are actually two valid approaches. The first one is to play e6, actually. So you're not forcing the issue for the knight to take, but why is e6 useful? What happens if white plays the move h3?
Oh, you can then drop the bishop back to f5 and
Exactly.
it's
Now you've
supported by
given
the pawn.
yourself a
Yeah.
sticky square. Yeah. And to be honest, I saw this move in the game, and I'll tell you what I played in just a second. And again, it was a problem of being a bit too ambitious. So here, I was just a bit unhappy that, I have to give up my bishop pair. But given everything, I probably should have accepted that this is the least of my concerns. Like, as long as
Mm.
I'm getting my pieces out, I'm going to get castled. I have a game. I can definitely still fight this position. Um, but oh, actually, now I'm thinking about it. Maybe my concern was to move bishop d3. Actually, maybe I was afraid that my bishop wouldn't be able to find a home. But I guess now I can play a move like knight d7, um, and force that knight to
Yeah.
make a decision, or if I'm not happy with the idea that maybe this bishop will still get harassed on this side of the board, maybe I can play bishop d6 to try and kick the knight.
Mm.
Maybe this is possible. But yeah, in any case, the second idea, aside from this e6, is actually quite interesting, is actually to play bishop h5. And we mentioned this at the start, and we were saying that this is a bad idea, right? Because they're going to go h3, g4, and we're going to lose that bishop. But this is where, um, if you always calculate your ideas through, you can sometimes realize that it might not be as it seems. So when they go h3, if you develop with e6 and they go g4, it turns out that you are just in time to play bishop d6. So that
Mm.
if they take your bishop, you
Yeah.
take their knight. And if they run away with their knight, what can we now do?
You can now bishop g6.
We can now go bishop g6, and that looks very good. And
Yeah.
I'm suddenly asking myself, well, what if they defend the knight in some way? We still cannot move the bishop back. And if we take them, they take with the pawn attacking our knight, and now we've got two pieces being
Mm.
attacked. So you've got to be very careful with this kind of play. I mean, the engine just says that this is completely good for black. But let's imagine they play a move like d4. What are we going to do here? I actually don't know the answer.
Mm.
Um,
Uh, so I'm trying to look at whether, yeah, I don't think there is a value in it, but whether like
mm,
sacking a piece on g4 for the two pawns
exactly. Yeah.
after
I mean,
take it. So if you go like bishop
yeah.
takes knight, and then you kind of
I'll
then
go knight takes, I
knight
think.
takes g4,
Yeah,
h takes, bishop takes, and like you're
exactly.
down a piece for two pawns, but you've opened up the king side. They haven't castled yet. Um,
True. Yeah. If they'd
yeah, it
castled,
was.
then maybe it's even stronger.
Yeah,
But
this is one of those things that like
yeah.
would pop into my head, and then I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not playing that. Move on. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't want to play it, but
I
given the
think I'd play
situation,
that if I
yeah,
was
we might
if I
have
was in
to.
a position
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
couldn't find any other way of not either losing a piece or completely messing up my kingside pawn structure,
Right, right.
and then letting the queen in and everything else with check. Um,
Mm.
then yeah, like at that point, that might have been what I played. But
Yeah. And as the teacher, I'm going to use my very handy tool, which is Stockfish. And indeed, bishop takes e5 is correct. Oh, it's definitely not knight takes d4. So that's my bad as well for missing this. Um, yes, both pieces are being attacked, but what critically did we both miss in this position?
um, well, the bishop can escape first, attacking the
Yes,
queen.
exactly. Beautiful. Yeah, really fantastic that you saw this. And for the records too, I mean, several months ago, I mean, these kind of like mini calculations, much slower. So I'm really seeing like a
Yeah.
huge improvement. Like it's really tangible and noticeable to me.
That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing I'd miss. So like even I was playing a rapid game online the other day and
Mm,
did I think kind of something like I thought I'd made, a discovered attack that was then going to win, like a discovered attack on the queen that was then going to
yeah.
win another piece, and then missed the fact that they could act. The first piece I'd moved out of the way could be captured with check. So then, they then get out of it, and I basically end up down a
Ah,
piece. And I
right,
think it's
right.
this similar thing here where you think actually, I think normally if I'm the one having to defend, and you're
Mm,
like, okay, right, both pieces are attacked. Is there a way I can get one of them out of there attacking something and then get the
yeah.
other one out? I'd be more likely to find it. But it'd
Right,
normally
right.
be if I was if I was white in this situation, I'd probably miss that black had this resource of
Yes, yes. And my
doing
advice for
this.
you there is that when you play an ambitious tactic in a game, I would recommend that you have the mindset that if your ambitious tactic fails, you can lose. And I think as soon as you appreciate that, then you get a little bit more careful with just double checking, are there any
Yeah.
resources for my opponent? Because if you just go in, full of excitement, without any kind of fear that there could be a problem, that's when these mistakes kind of
Mm.
creep in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat actually. And it's just maybe recently where I've done so much tactical training that I've started to overcome this a bit and just appreciate that, yeah, actually, there are so many resources for my opponent. I need to be so thorough
Mhm.
with getting it right. But okay, I missed this one as well. I have to admit. Um, but yeah, so okay, there were some creative solutions. Bishop h5 is very creative, but there were also some simpler solutions with
Yeah.
e6. But in the game, I didn't fancy my knight getting drawn out to g4. So I played the move queen c8. And my logic, similar to e6, was that, well, next move I want to drop the bishop back to f5. Um, and if they take, I want to take with the queen. Because I feel like my knight is well placed on f6. My queen might actually be a bit of a nuisance on g4, pressuring the g2 pawn.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Have they still got bishop d3 as a
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I can no longer drop my bishop back to f5. And yeah, already I was starting to feel the heat of it. Because this time I don't even have bishop d6 to force the issue of the knight to go move.
Mm.
Um, I think knight d7 is still met by the same problem, knight takes g4 and then taking
Yeah.
here because now on pawn takes, knight takes, I don't even win the queen because the bishop
They can they just
is
they've
protected.
also just got that threat now, haven't they? As in they can take um next the queen is, yeah, ignore me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that we're
yeah,
still just about covered.
yeah.
Um, so as a result, I find a way to gain a tempo on the knight a slightly different way. Now, in this position, the reason why the engine gives us as dubious is actually because the opponent had an even stronger move than what was played in the game. Apparently, the opponent could even take on f7, which I did consider because you have to consider such a move just in case. But I did not see why this was so strong. But it turns out that there's no immediate attack on the king. There's just um, simply h3, and there's not a there's not a safe way to retreat our bishop. And I guess if we're going to lose our bishop, despite winning their knight, the fact that our king is weakened, and they're going to have a very strong bishop, yeah, I can see how this is better for white. But we both missed this. My opponent took on g4. I took with the queen, um, and my opponent castled. And I guess like in this position, it took me two moves to recapture the knight. My opponent has kind of very efficiently developed their pieces. Um, uh, yeah, so they haven't really lost any time. So at this moment, um, I felt that I had to be faster with developing. So just on a principle standpoint, I decided to play e6. And that's the difficult thing with chess. I mean, like this whole time I've kind of been playing um a bit too slowly and ambitiously and not just got on with the principles. And now this time I get on with the principles and actually I get punished because it turns out that my second idea would have been slightly better, which is actually to drop the queen back.
I was about to say is the queen. My worry with that last move is, yeah, it's the queen just a bit stuck where it can
Yes.
kind of get chased around a bit within that small area of
Yeah,
board.
and I saw that it couldn't get trapped, and I was correct that it doesn't get trapped. But the problem is, not really the queen getting trapped over here, but the fact that the queen does not help out defend this queen side, which it normally would. And you'll see later in the game that there are all kinds of problems on this side of the board. And if my queen had been here, then I'd deal with all of the problems. So queen
Mm.
d7 was definitely instinctive, but I just thought, oh my God, I've made so many queen moves. I can't make another one when I'm this
Yeah.
underdeveloped. But actually, it's not easy to open up the center. I mean, if white plays a move like e4, well, here I can just take it.
Mm.
And this file is still going to be closed. I'm going to be able to play e6, and I probably will get castled. So this would have been my best bet. But instead, I played e6. So maybe again, a bit more calculation to just verify, do I have the time for queen d7 or not? Might have been useful. And the move I completely underestimated Well, c takes d5. Now, in this position, how would you recapture on
So,
d5?
well, C takes to keep the kind of that pawn chain would
Hmm.
be what I'd be used to. Obviously, actually, if you go E takes D5, it at least gives the queen a route back in.
True.
Um, but yeah, normally just because I'm used to playing with that structure, I'd go C takes
Yeah, and if you've got a few
D5.
more moves, knight c6, bishop d6 castles, I think black is doing absolutely fine. But what is the issue of c takes? There's a big problem actually.
Hmm. I'm trying to look at what square that would weaken.
You're
Uh,
right about thinking about weak squares.
is it? Well, I don't know. The knight could get on C5 in a couple of moves. Um, they'd also, well, yeah, they could. Like it opens up slightly leave B5 only defended once, which would be a check for the bishop, but it can't get there yet.
Hmm.
I'm trying to look at what would happen after E4 if they then, but then no, because that E4's yeah, that'd be fine if you then recaptured. Um,
Now,
well,
one
well, no,
other
it wouldn't
way.
because you'd have
Hmm.
yeah that. I was thinking if they went E5 and you recaptured it, that black pawn on E yeah on E5. So if they went E4 and you recaptured that
Hmm.
E4 pawn would then be attacked three times and only defended twice. But um,
But that's a
yeah,
trade, right?
yeah,
They're giving
yeah,
up a pawn, we're taking a
yeah.
pawn. So I'd say one thing you've got to be careful of is when you take with the C pawn or the E pawn, you've got to appreciate that you are changing which file is open. Like
Okay,
right now there are
yeah,
no files open. This would open the E file potentially, and this would open the C file potentially. So
yeah.
what idea is then available to white?
To the fact that you're if you take with a C pawn, you're opening the C file that their queen's already on.
Aha. And is
I'm
there a
just
way
look.
to make that a tangible?
Um, mm, don't know, I'm not seeing anything obvious to make use of that, or at least to make immediate use of. Obviously, like they could move the knight, which would then leave the queen staring down that file. But
Hmm.
um, where yeah, I guess the queen would have entry at C8, or well, actually C8 would be mate, would it? No, it wouldn't. But you have yeah C8 or C7 where the queen could get in. Um,
So the issue with, let's say, after c takes d5, they move, knight, let's say a really bad move, knight b1, in order to reveal the queen. Why would this be too slow? What would black be able to do?
um, uh, well, they'd have knight. You have knight C6, which
Knight
would at least
c6.
block
Yeah,
that file.
exactly. And that indeed does the job. If there's no knight c6 in the position, queen c8 check is very strong
Mm.
because after king e7, can you see the follow-up?
Um, yeah, I'm assuming there's also no knight on B8 there. I'm sorry, assuming the knight is still on
Yes.
B8. Yeah, so you got queen. Uh, what else have they got? They can their knight can take on D5 with check because
Ah. So
Oh
for
no,
now,
you
I'm saying the
can't
knight
because
is
no, yeah.
on
Oh,
B1.
sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, you couldn't anyway because their queen wouldn't be hanging because the knight
Yes, the knight is
on
defending it.
the knight would still be
True.
defending it. Um, oh, the queen takes b7, forking the king and rook.
Okay, so queen takes b7 is a good move. Yep, and that does the job. But also, there is a way for white to bring in one more attacker with very devastating effect.
Oh, because the queen, yeah. So or even if the queen hadn't gone, that line's still open. But yeah, there'd be bishop a3
Bishop a3,
check.
exactly, exactly. And this earlier move, this b3 move, I mean, now it comes to light and we see how strong it is. So,
Yeah.
given that knight b1 can be met with knight c6, white then needs to find um, a threat with the knight. Because if the knight can make a threat and there's no
Hmm.
time for knight c6, well then all of these ideas are going to be stronger. So what could white tr play?
Well, like the first thing that jumps out is just knight takes d5.
Hmm.
Because I don't think that based on everything we've just discussed, they wouldn't have time to just recapture it. Um, but is there anything better with the knight? Oh, yeah, like you've got like knight e4, but then if the whole point of that is to attack the knight, then that's just a trade unless you're kind of if you knight takes d5 and get the pawn first. Um, how else do you clear that knight out of the way and actually attack something? Um, oh, knight b knight b5 would then threaten knight c7, forking the king and rook.
Hmm. And the nice thing
Um,
is that it's easier to calculate because on knight b5, um, if a takes b5, it doesn't really change anything significant about the
yeah,
position. So that you can then still justify, okay, queen c8, king e7, bishop a3, or queen takes b7 should both still work.
yeah.
And yeah, knight b5, black is just busted in this position. So this is why I couldn't take with the c pawn. For the record, the engine also says that knight takes d5 is working, but you need to be a lot more careful, right? If the pawn takes, the queen defends c8, so you need to
Mm,
see that there's bishop f5
yeah.
first in order to get in queen
Okay.
c8. But
Yeah.
also, you've got moves like knight takes d5, and when the queen comes down to c8, maybe after king e7, now bishop a3 wouldn't work because you can run.
Mm,
So probably in that position, there's still queen takes b7, and this is still winning the rook. But yeah, I would say that when you're deciding between these two moves, if you're with the white pieces, you want the line that is simpler to calculate, where you know that you're winning for sure. Even if knight takes d5 was like a tiny bit better, the more complications, the more risk that you've missed something. So knight b5 is the cleanest win, in my opinion. But yeah, basically C takes D5 happened. I realized that I can't take with the knight, with the C pawn. And I realized I also couldn't take with the knight because it felt like just a worse version than if I take with the E
mm,
pawn. If I make these two trades because the bishop is potentially more open. And I felt like the knight was actually doing better securing my king side and potentially giving me attacking chances uh, than if I trade it off. So I took with the e-pawn, which was correct. And my opponent throwed in this move, bishop f5 to attack my queen. I found a safe square for it. And at this moment, yeah, I'm really, really just hoping that I can get in bishop d6, I can get castled, and I get a game. But this is where my opponent does fantastically to make use of his initiative and make use of the fact that I've had to lose a lot of tempi with my queen, have to, awkwardly develop my pieces at times. And my opponent plays the best, most principled move in the position. You get one guess. What are you going to play? What would be your
Um,
intuition based on what I'm saying?
so I think it's something that stops you being able to further develop and castle, or something that opens the
Hmm.
center up
Hmm.
with their kind of lead in development and double bishop advantage. Um, is it just e4?
Fantastic. And that's the best move. And that's what my opponent played. So at this moment, originally I had the plan to play the move d4, right? The e4 with d4, keep the center a bit more closed. But I realized that I didn't like the fact that I was going to be losing this pawn. And on the move c5, why does this not secure my center? What's the issue?
Well, um, is it after knight takes
Hmm.
d4, c takes d4? You've then got the same issues we've just been through with
Exactly.
a queen and bishop.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like all of these kind of intuitive moves, like being like, oh yeah, that should be okay. Suddenly it's
Mm.
not okay because my queen is over here, not over here. So
Yeah.
this is what I was saying about, when I got my queen out,
Mm.
it was kind of I felt like it was missing on this side of the board to help secure my queen side. So given that, I decided to play the move g6, which I thought was quite clever because it also means that in some positions where I develop my bishop and my king gets checked, I can kind of castle by hand and find a way to
Yeah.
safety. Maybe I can even fianchetto and get castled. I thought this was possible too, so I thought this was a nice idea. And my opponent played the move bishop c8. Um, and after the game, I realized that this was actually where I made my mistake. I took on e4, thinking that, okay, I've got three attackers on this pawn. I can get away with this, even if they play rook e1. I don't mind. I can, develop, and even if they win my pawn, I can probably get away with it. Okay, maybe not with the bishop on d6, but I felt that I could get away with taking this pawn, basically. Um, but it turns out that definitely the best try would have been to now push d4, given that knight e2, uh, you know, actually in this position, now that the bishop has moved, I don't even have to rely on c5 ideas. I can even just take on e4. So d4 keeping the position a bit more closed, I mean, is options are limited. If he drops back his knight, I can win the pawn. Um, if he tries to meet e4 with e5, we can get this big exchange. And if they try and throw in the move g3 um, at this moment, then yes, I cannot put my queen on the square that defends my knight in order to recapture the pawn. However, I can play queen e4, attacking their queen, attacking this
Mm.
pawn. So this gets out of some business as well. And I also don't need to worry about this move because
Yeah.
yeah, the bishop is stuck and they'd have to spend a lot of time going backwards just to win the pawn, and yeah, the knight is still hanging. So d4 would have been my best bet. And it turns out that my position is still bad after e5, d takes c3, e takes f6, queen f6. This is still a good position for white, I guess.
Mm.
I've got problems here. They've got bishop pair, my king is still in the center, but it's still a game. And I will
Mm.
get castled and I will be able to fight. So this would have been my best chance. But what I did in the game was play d takes e4, and I completely overlooked my opponent's resource. And I think like when you play several classical games in a row, you really start to pick up on what your current biggest weaknesses are. And I realized that yeah, this move G3 is just something I completely overlooked. And I realized that in my chess, missing my opponent's resources is one of my biggest issues. And it kind of starts to happen more and more the more fatigued I get. I mean, we can even go all the way back to the start of my problems where I played this H6 move, where I completely overlooked that Queen C2 prevents my bishop f5 and weakens my bishop g4. Like I just missed it. So I think that's one of my biggest take-home messages from this tournament and my last tournament that I'm just missing my opponent's resources. So yeah, g3 is a very nice move because now I can't actually keep tabs on my e4
Yeah.
pawn, and now my e4 pawn collapses while I'm still very underdeveloped, and yeah, I'm in a very tough spot at this moment. Um, so what I try in this position, I haven't given up yet. I take on e4 and I play bishop e7. And my logic is that well, how would you continue with white? What would be your instinct to punish me?
Don't know, I'm just looking. You can't castle yet without losing the bishop. Um, you've got
So white's turn to
uh,
play, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think like whatever white does, basically I wouldn't if I was white, I wouldn't want to let black just castle on the next but
Mm,
what else? You've got so bishop b2 hitting the rook would like if the rook moves, you've then lost the ability
hmm
to castle. Um, not that you could do it straight away anyway. The only way you could block it without moving the rook would be um, f6. Oh no, well, you could move the other. No, yeah, because the bishop's pinned. Um, okay, right.
hmm
Don't think I'd properly clocked that before. Yes, if you go bishop a3,
Aha, and add
attacking
pressure
the
on the
pinned
pin
bishop,
piece. Hmm
um, then black would have to defend that bishop somehow,
Right.
which they could only do by moving the queen, which could only go to g5. Um, and then if you pushed the d pawn, then oh, next the bishop would have moved.
Yeah.
The although you could always just trade things off anyway in that position and go kind of you could trade off both bishops and both queens and then leave the king in the bit in the center,
Mm.
followed by like rook e1 or something.
But I would say
Um,
that yeah, once you trade off those materials, the king's
is that kind of giving up the
safety
big
issue.
basically giving
I
up
think
white's
so. I
advantage?
think so,
Yeah,
yeah, because as it stands, I mean, White's not even material up. I mean, even
yeah,
if they win this one pawn, I mean, it's not that huge. So I'd be very happy to see a mass trade.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, after bishop a3, queen g5, how can White add even more pressure to that bishop on e7?
Oh, rook e1.
Rook e1, right? So in the game, I kind of played this move with a bit of sneaky intentions, hoping that my opponent gets caught up in trying to add pressure to the pin piece. Because what I'd seen is, okay, whether bishop a3 or rook e1 is probably quite similar. I'd seen that I can actually castle here. Because what happens when they take my bishop?
Um, trying to look like you don't have rook e8. You don't like the knight. If the knight moves, then that would discover an attack on the bishop. But the knight, like the knight's only got one square it could go to, where the bishop could just take it.
Hmm
Um, queen's there.
And don't forget that when you castle, you activate your rook as well.
Yeah. But oh, yeah, the rook can take the bishop.
Yeah, the rook can take the bishop, right? And
Yeah,
I was banking on maybe my opponent getting a bit flustered by this and taking on b7, in which now, at least when they take my bishop, I can't take the bishop. But then I was looking at
but could
ideas
you
like,
not like? So do you know
mhm,
if you go hang on, yeah, if you go back there, so if they take, so you get queen takes
uh-huh,
e7, rook takes c8,
yeah,
like, no, yeah, yeah, that wouldn't because you'd be losing the queen. I was just thinking whether, so after something like queen e8 check, rook takes, then the fact
mm,
that both their knight and rook in the corner, so if black's knight and rook would basically be trapped and neither of them could move.
right.
But yeah, I missed. I was thinking about it in terms of like just trading off two rooks and then leaving their pieces trapped, not the fact that you'd have lost the queen in the process.
True, true.
Um,
But actually, on that note of the knight and rook being quite vulnerable, there is a move in this position that I think would be pretty devastating that white could play.
it'd be queen d7.
Oh, be careful. Queen d7.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, all right. No, you can't do a similar thing with e6 either because the pawn could take it. Um, yeah, I was trying to think of ways of getting the white rook onto e8 to set up the same thing, as long as it
Mm.
was then defended by the queen. But
Something
yeah, you
even
can't.
simpler.
Um, oh, queen takes
Yeah,
b7's
just queen takes
hanging.
b7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got way too many issues. So I mean,
So yeah,
this
the knight has to move to avoid losing a rook, and if the
exactly
knight moves, you can just take it.
perfect.
Mm,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there was this in the position. I mean, I was just kind of hoping that my opponent just kind of strays wrong and I get something like this where maybe I win back the material and I'm only a pawn down. But despite these ideas, which don't even work anyway, my opponent found a very nice move, which is just bishop b2. And the point being is that if I now castle and they take my bishop and I take their bishop, they've got this very nice move, queen f6. So they ignore the fact that I've regained my material and just threaten checkmate instead. And if I try and run with my king to f8 to avoid the mate,
Yeah.
I lose my rook at the very least.
Mm.
So at this moment, I mean, I was literally about to castle and just let him have the pretty finish because there's nothing else to try. But then I realized that actually I can fight this on a little bit longer. I can try to move f5. And if he plays the move queen e5, well, then at least I can play rook h7 and try and hang on a bit. He instead played queen e6, which I think was a very testing move because my rook is being attacked. I cannot play rook h7 because he goes queen g6 and makes a fork. So I play rook f8. He then develops rook. I try and hold. He then takes on b7, and this is a nice sequence because I cannot play rook a7. For what reason?
Um, that then loses the knight to queen c8
Even worse than the
check.
knight.
But
What's going to happen after queen c8? How can I
oh,
deal with the check?
um, the only thing you can do, well, you can't. I was going to say the only thing you could go bishop d8, but you can't because that would then be pinned.
Exactly.
Um, so you can't, can you?
You can't.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that'd just be mate.
Just be checkmate. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So in this position, I blocked the
Mm,
checkmate with my knight at the expense of giving up my rook. But at least I get something. I get an attack. Maybe if I can take on g3, maybe I can create some counterplay on the
mm.
king. But I'm just one tempo too slow. He takes on c6. I do not have time to take on g3 because, he's just going to take on d7, and I'm
Yeah.
not running away because of this bishop. It's just simply checkmate. So I decide to run a bit sooner. They take on D7. They take on E7, and of course, I still try this because you never know if they just take the rook or they blunder something. But of course, my opponent did not miss Queen E8. And maybe I should have just let him checkmate me, but I kind of also felt that, okay, resigning also makes sense because I finally do not have any further move to fight. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I've done pretty well to at least get to here and give like some hope of fighting back. But yeah, pretty nice game from my opponent. I mean, really well handling of the initiative to make use of the fact that I had some slow moves and kind of uh punished me for not getting my opening principles
Mm.
done and dusted, like getting my king safe, this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like with that sort of Caracan type structure, that is
yeah,
the kind of big, almost the thing I find most difficult. Like
yes,
whenever it does go wrong, it is in that same way where you've spent so long trying to get the queen side, get the bishop out from the queen side
yeah,
and then get the
yeah,
pawn in behind it, and you haven't even started developing the king side yet, and then
yeah.
you end up there's an attack coming at you that you can defend, but like by the time you've then defended that, it's like, well, I still haven't castled, I still haven't.
Right, right. And this is what we've got to avoid. And I
Mm,
think that is where I think prioritizing the principles and not being fancy is definitely uh going to help. And
mm,
I think in this position, yeah, had I just played the move Bishop F5 and accepted that, okay, Knight H4 is a move and White's going to be a tiny bit better, I've just got to accept that, yeah, if I want to play this structure, um, I've just got to accept that that's the reality. I can't be more ambitious with
mm,
with a move like H6.
yeah,
So yeah, in this case, the ambition killed the cat, and yeah, I wanted you to uh, see this so that you also don't um,
mm,
get tempted by these moves because the stronger you get, the more you start to like appreciate these like very, very subtle differences. And you might get tempted by this. I mean, in a way, this is prophylaxis, right? This is
yeah,
prophylaxis against my opponent's idea of knight h4, but it's still violating the principles, and this is ultimately a bigger sin. And I just can't get away with it in this
yeah. When like
position concretely.
if you throw in needing to get the light squared bishop out, then like even if they don't do anything, you're still, one, two, three, four moves away from being
Yeah, and
castled.
it's a
So
risk. It's a
and then you
risk that
waste
you've missed
using
something.
another
Yeah.
move that then means by moving that pawn, it's kind of, well, that's yeah, five moves before there's
Yeah.
any castling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I have this other game, but maybe I'll save that for another time. Since I've still got a round of chess to prepare for
Yeah,
and
no worries at
play
all.
today. Yeah. Nah. But yeah, no, hope that was useful. And yeah, thanks for agreeing to record this video as well.
Yeah,
I
no
think
worries.
the YouTube viewers have been dying to see some game analysis from my tournaments. I just haven't had the time. Uh yeah, so this will be educational for them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot.
Hey, no worries, Stu. Yeah,
Cheers. And
great
yeah, good
lesson.
luck. So if you got
Thank
another
you.
game today.
Yes, another game today. And actually, I'll be taking a bye over the weekend because I want to play in the rapid play. There's like a or 1 day rapid, um, which is quite exciting. How about you? Do you have any tournaments on the horizon?
No, nothing, only the kind of, there's the like summer cups and things
I see.
at
Yep.
the club.
Yep.
And then yeah, I think the classical season starts again in sort of September, October
Mm.
time, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, we're at the moment getting hammered in one of the cups. I think we're currently bottom, but yeah,
I
we're
see.
it's been
Uh-huh.
good for, I think, basically taking the approach of just giving like new people some games and things like that. And
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
like I say, each round we've played, we've lost, but I've won one, lost one each round. So and yeah,
Uh-huh.
normally had one where everything goes wrong and you feel useless, and then one where everything goes right and you feel like, oh, I'm loads better than this person. So
Yep.
yeah, I think it's just inconsistent at the moment.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
the fact at least I normally view it if it's inconsistent, but there's one good game there, it's like, okay, right, at least I can do it. That'll just hopefully get a bit more consistent
Exactly,
with
exactly. I think
practice.
that is something to keep in mind. Yeah, that's great. Okay, then, you. Yeah, great session, and I guess see you next month
Yeah,
sometime.
and yeah, good luck for today and
Yeah,
the
thank you
rest
so
of the
much.
tournament.
Definitely need it. Okay, cool. Okay, see you then.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.